In the previous spoiler, it was mentioned that even though Luo Feng's plan was meticulous and his preparations thorough, he still fell victim to the fleeting curiosity of the Violet Dooku Venerable, ultimately being captured and imprisoned in the ice prison. The moment he stepped into the ice prison, an unbearably terrifying spatial pressure instantly enveloped his entire body. Without the aid of the Shi Wu wings, he would probably have been unable to fly at all. Some weaker World Master-level beings might have been crushed into dust by the pressure in an instant. This is one of the reasons why only King Immortal exists within the ice prison. After all, any weaker alien intruders would be eradicated before even having a chance to be imprisoned. The ice prison, being a heavy treasure of the ceiling type, has an extremely unstable internal space. As a result, even though Luo Feng carried several soul slaves hidden within his world ring, he could not use it to teleport out via their divine kingdom. Stepping into this vast, desolate, and endless icy wilderness, Luo Feng could only trudge through the snow, taking one determined step after another as he explored the secrets of this space. What he didn't know was that every footprint he left in the snow had quietly alerted a lurking alien beast hidden within the ice prison. In fact, the unique materials found on the ice prison star, which only the Dooku clan can refine, are incredibly valuable, attracting countless powerful beings who risk life and death to steal them. Yet, those who succeed are less than 1%. Those who fail are either annihilated on the spot or pay a heavy price for freedom. The rest are imprisoned within the ice prison. Over the long passage of time, the number of King Immortals imprisoned in the ice prison had already surpassed 10,000, and this massive group of captives had become the cruelest form of entertainment for the Cyan Dooku Venerable. In fact, every prisoner in the ice prison received an identity token, and collecting 10,000 tokens would grant release. Those who failed to gather enough tokens yet somehow survived would ultimately face merciless slaughter. In other words, all prisoners are forced to hunt each other for the single chance of survival and freedom. After prolonged battles, fewer than 1,000 prisoners remain alive today. This, ultimately, is the true intention behind the trial set by the sitting mountain guest. Only under extreme oppression and life-and-death combat can Luo Feng be forced to hone himself, break his limits, and eventually ascend to the pinnacle of strength. Luo Feng trudged through the snow but encountered no powerful beings for a long while. Suddenly, his miniature detector issued an ambush warning. Instantly, he leapt into the air, putting distance between himself and the attacking beast. Unfamiliar with the conditions of the ice prison, Luo Feng did not immediately strike. Instead, he tried to speak, hoping to gather information. But the beast, brimming with murderous intent, had no interest in conversation. It instantly teleported behind him and lunged with a bite. Some might wonder, if the powerful beings in the ice prison can teleport, why don't they simply escape? The truth is, it's not that they don't want to, but they simply can't. Any treasure capable of suppression or sealing, whether a heavy treasure, arcana, or higher-grade artifact, contains an internal world completely isolated from the outside. Therefore, teleportation works only within the artifact itself. Unless one can forcibly tear open the artifact from inside, escape is impossible. Although Luo Feng's Masha clan clone was not with him, preventing him from freely teleporting, the Shi Wu wings offered protection, denying the beast any advantage. Seizing the opportunity, Luo Feng used his spiritual energy to form a blade and strike the beast's soul, momentarily halting it, then followed up with a hit from the poison-infused sealed star. It should be noted that although Luo Feng is not a soul-type cultivator, based on his current consciousness and willpower, and using the beast god artistic conception as a foundation, his soul attacks can already rival an ordinary strike from a peak King Immortal who's skilled in soul aspect, enough to affect high-tier and even peak King Immortals. Strangely, even though Luo Feng didn't use the power of the Star Scroll, the creature's divine body was directly shattered and scattered. He immediately realized this was merely one of the creature's two innate secret techniques, its clone secret technique. However, unlike the innate technique of the golden horned beast, which could produce clones of the same level that grow alongside the main body, this creature's clone technique was more like a divine body split. It couldn't grow with the main body, its strength was far weaker, and it could only serve as a temporary means to spy or a survival tactic. After several sneak attacks by clones to no avail, the beast finally ceased, clearly having just to test Luo Feng's strength and judge whether the main body could kill him. As for why Luo Feng didn't take the initiative to find the opponent's main body to counterattack, it was because the space inside the ice prison was extremely turbulent, and the large detection instruments could not operate normally at all. This is why he did not find other detainees for a long time. Not long after, Luo Feng encountered an alien from a subordinate clan under the control of the demon race. To his surprise, the moment they met, the alien did not hesitate to ignite its divine body and fight him to the death, leaving no room for retreat. There was no denying that, when facing a powerhouse at peak King Immortal level or higher, Luo Feng's inability to burn his divine body was a weakness. Though he was stronger than an ordinary limit King Immortal, once the opponent ignited their divine body and boosted their combat power tenfold or more, the gap between them shrank dramatically. Luo Feng could no longer crush them with absolute dominance and could only drag the fight into a battle of attrition. It should be noted that burning one's divine body is essentially burning life itself. While it can cause a dramatic surge in combat power for a short time, excessive consumption is difficult to recover from and severely weakens strength, making it impossible to sustain for long. In contrast, Luo Feng's speed was extraordinary, allowing him to effortlessly evade all of his opponent's attacks. In a one-on-one situation, he had no fear of being drawn into a battle of attrition. Seeing that Luo Feng did not engage directly and kept evading, the alien suddenly chose to self-destruct, ending its own life. It's important to note that unlike humans, other races cannot rely on a fully simulated virtual universe spanning the entire original universe to channel their thoughts and emotions. Over the long passage of time, their longing for their clans and loved ones had been drained by endless isolation, and this mental torment had long extinguished any attachment to living among the lower tier or weaker beings trapped in the ice prison. Although the alien's self-destruction posed no threat to Luo Feng, he still could not understand why the prisoners in the ice prison almost always fought to the death upon first encountering someone. It was only when he saw the ice monument set up by the Cyan Duku Venerable, which recorded the rules of survival, that he finally fully understood the root of it all. Even after learning the truth, Luo Feng was still able to calmly accept the trial meticulously arranged for him by the sitting mountain guest. The reason was that, even before his Masha clan clone took action, he had already prepared a contingency plan to ensure everything went smoothly. Luo Feng had the golden horned beast carry the crucial life core and hide it within the world ring of King Tianjin, while taking the majority of his soul slaves far away from the ice prison star zone. His human body, meanwhile, retained only the King Heavy Arrow who holding the purple bell and a single soul master, so that if he was forced to fight in battle involving burning divine body, he would still have assistance and would not fall into a passive position. This arrangement meant that even if Luo Feng's human body were completely destroyed, his true self would remain perfectly safe. The only cost would be the loss of treasures carried by the human body, such as the Sure Wu wings and tower bead. Strictly speaking, if the Masha clan clone had a soul and could read all the information on the metal plate, there would have been no need for the human body to take risks, and consequently, no risk of losing treasures. After all of Luo Feng's clones shared a connected consciousness in which once one clone obtained information, all the others would instantly know it as well. Even so, Luo Feng never worried about the treasures truly falling into someone else's hands. This is because, according to his overall plan, if the treasures were ever taken, he could simply call upon the primal Chaos City leader to personally intervene and reclaim them with absolute force. Of course, that was still far off. Given Luo Feng's character, it was absolutely impossible for him to actively seek help or admit defeat before attempting to complete the task using his own limits. In comparison, experiencing life-and-death combat under extreme pressure would serve as a far stronger catalyst for honing his abilities. Although Luo Feng could remain calm in the face of everything happening around him, more than 90% of the other strong beings in the ice prison could not. After all, they had no virtual universe and could not make contact with the outside world. As the only human in the ice prison, Luo Feng was seen by those still clinging to hope as a priceless treasure. This was because he was very likely carrying an unregistered account connector for the virtual universe. Possessing such an object, whether to secretly communicate with one's clan or simply to log into virtual games, was like seeing a beam of light in the endless darkness, which is a prize worth any risk. As a result, when a mutated plant life discovered Luo Feng, it immediately attacked without hesitation. Luo Feng reacted swiftly, using the Sure Wu wings to evade the assault, while employing the Star Scroll to manipulate the laws of the universe, and combining it with the sealed stars to launch a devastating strike. However, the opponent was a peak King Immortal and instantly teleported out of the way. Left with no other choice, Luo Feng activated the arm of space lockdown to seal the area, then used the Sure Wu wings to execute his Pinnacle technique to slice through, and seized the opportunity to destroy nearly half of his opponent's divine body with poison seal stars. With its strength suddenly diminished and no way to escape, the plant life finally chose to cooperate and communicate with Luo Feng. Learning that it had come only for the virtual universe connector, Luo Feng felt no sympathy. Instead, he decisively concealed the fact that he indeed possessed the connector. He knew all too well that if this information were to leak, he would face relentless, frenzied attacks. Although Luo Feng was stronger than an ordinary Limit King Immortal, he was by no means invincible. More importantly, his advantage relied on battle that does not involving burning divine body, whereas the strong beings in the ice prison would not care about the toll on their divine bodies in pursuit of survival or release. Facing such a group, the consequences of being targeted were unimaginable. Based on the intelligence provided by the plant life, Luo Feng gained a much deeper understanding of the strength distribution of the beings in the ice prison, even obtaining a list from it that detailed the combat rankings of all the surviving prisoners. Remarkably, the compiler of this list was a being of the invincible King Immortal, a level comparable to King Jinyan. In the ice prison, there were 5 such beings in total, which are the terrifying entities that Luo Feng was currently far from being able to contend with. Luo Feng quickly realized that, with his current strength, he was still far from achieving the goal of collecting 10,000 identity tokens. Even so, the ice prison remained an excellent place for him to sharpen his skills. After absorbing these crucial pieces of information, Luo Feng, as promised, released the plant life. Meanwhile, the footprints Luo Feng left in the snow attracted the attention of a nearby Limit King Immortal, King Whitebone. Unlike the weaker beings he had encountered earlier, King Whitebone was close to the invincible King Immortal stage, on par with King Seven Swords, and one of the top 15 most ruthless figures in the ice prison, which ranking among the top 10 Limit King Immortals. Of course, compared to geniuses like the King Seven Swords, who were highly valued and painstakingly nurtured by their clans in the outside world, the powerhouses trapped in the ice prison, though not inferior in their mastery of secret techniques or understanding of the original laws, were vastly lacking in the number of heavy-grade treasures they possessed. Many captives didn't even have a single protective heavy treasure armor, which was one of the reasons their combat strength was severely diminished. Facing a powerhouse like the King Whitebone, Luo Feng felt no fear and had absolutely no thought of fleeing. Seeing this, the King Whitebone immediately activated a space lockdown, preventing Luo Feng from escaping during the fight, and seized the initiative to launch a fierce assault. Luo Feng, unwilling to yield, relied on the sure Wu wings to explode into extreme speed, deftly evading the King Whitebone's attacks, and counterattacked powerfully with the Star Scroll. The King Whitebone quickly realized that Luo Feng's speed was astonishing and that his strength exceeded that of a typical Limit King Immortal, making it impossible to dominate the battle. He immediately abandoned any restraint, transformed his divine body, and entered his strongest combat form. As his aura surged dramatically, King Whitebone perfectly fused his secret techniques with his heavy-grade treasure, unleashing a devastating, unstoppable offensive. Facing such overwhelming pressure, Luo Feng could only respond defensively, completely on the back foot. His attacks were largely ineffective, and even the beast god illusions summoned by the Star Scroll were shattered by a single strike from the King Whitebone. Even against a powerhouse at the level of King Seven Swords, the King Whitebone, though slightly inferior, was still far beyond what Luo Feng could directly contend with at this stage. Realizing the gap in strength, Luo Feng abandoned any desire to continue the fight and instead used his extreme speed to exit the battlefield. Though enraged, King Whitebone had to admit that throughout the entire ice prison, Luo Feng's speed was truly unparalleled. Even compared to the 5 invincible King Immortals, he still maintained a clear advantage. The fierce clash between Luo Feng and King Whitebone had already attracted the attention of many nearby strong beings, who hid at a distance to observe and even relayed the battle's progress to other prisoners they were friendly with. Yet, those who hadn't witnessed it firsthand could hardly believe that Luo Feng could emerge unscathed from King Whitebone until King Whitebone himself admitted the outcome. After all, Luo Feng's escape speed was so extraordinary that it was almost impossible to believe without seeing it. After this battle, Luo Feng's ranking within the ice prison immediately rose to the top 20, only trailing behind the 5 invincible King Immortals and the top 10 Limit King Immortals. As a result, even though the news spread throughout the ice prison that a human had been imprisoned there, very few strong beings actually dared to target Luo Feng or attempt to seize the virtual universe connector. And even those who were eager to try could never trace his whereabouts. What they didn't know was that after that battle, Luo Feng immediately delved deep into the underground layers of the ice prison and used a miniature detector to completely conceal his traces. At the same time, he began reflecting on his own weaknesses. Undoubtedly, Luo Feng's greatest current shortcoming was his inability to burn divine body. After all, he had not yet reached the immortal level. Moreover, his final clone had not yet determined and matured, so breaking through to immortality was clearly not something achievable in the short term. In comparison, even his strongest offensive arcana had not yet unleashed its full potential. After weighing the pros and cons, Luo Feng decided to enter seclusion and create a secret technique uniquely suited to the spiritual energy cultivator system, perfectly compatible with the Star Scroll. Luo Feng suddenly shifted his focus to spiritual weapons, prompting Primal Chaos City leader to shake his head in quiet disapproval. Although he did not approve of Luo Feng's choice, he did not voice any objection. Instead, he continued to exploit the weaknesses in Luo Feng's secret techniques, arranging one opponent after another for him. After all, every genius has their own obsession, and constant suppression would only disrupt their cultivation mindset. Unlike when he spent thousands of years creating the first technique of the Bright Moon tactic, this time Luo Feng developed a secret technique of equivalent level within the spiritual energy cultivation lineage in less than a tenth of that time. However, Primal Chaos City leader did not show any sign of pleasure. Instead, he appeared in person and demanded that Luo Feng use this secret technique to fight 10 battles in the real world and report his insights from each one. Originally immersed in the joy of his secret technique's achievement, Luo Feng soon noticed that Primal Chaos City leader seemed quite displeased with his dual cultivation as both a close combat warrior and a spiritual master, worried that it might affect his training progress. Yet, despite this, Luo Feng remained unfazed, growing even more composed and resolute. After all, even Primal Chaos City leader could not fully unravel the secrets of the Earth lineage. Why then did the Primal Chaos City leader want to prevent Luo Feng from practicing both paths? Could there be hidden secrets behind this opposition? And after creating this new secret technique, what level of power would Luo Feng ultimately achieve? Stay tuned for the next spoiler, where I will reveal it all. Well, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching this video. Wish you a wonderful day.